So today, let's zoom in on South Africa's favorite sport, that is commissions of inquiry. So this is against the backdrop of that huge expose that was done by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi of KZN, the commissioner there, provincial commissioner there, exposing the shenanigans, the corruption that is within the police department, particularly accusing the minister of police, Senzo Mchunu, his associations with unsavory characters, criminals, and other people who are his handlers and all of that. And that particular expose caused a huge uproar in the country. What's happening within our security cluster, as it were. But nonetheless, President Ramaphosa responded by doing one of his favorite things, instituting another commission of inquiry in order to deal with this.
When we arrived at Kulumburg, do you remember you hung me up?
I may have done it, sir.
To listen to the victims of human rights abuses, to provide reparation, and to grant amnesty. These were the three main tasks of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The scope of the commission dated from the 1960s right through to 1994, including the Shell House massacre, the murder of Communist Party leader Chris Hani, and the St James Church attack in Cape Town. While many wanted answers around high-profile killings and disappearances, it was the everyday brutality of the apartheid system that came to characterize much of the hearings. For some, it was all too much. The perpetrators also had to be heard.
So the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that was instituted by Nelson Mandela, the first democratically elected president in South Africa. So this one is so very interesting that even today, 30 years later, those who are supposed to be held accountable, they're still not held accountable, you know. So the whole idea was that people, they need to come and confess what they have done and they will get amnesty. Should you decide not to do it, to do that, to come forth and volunteer the information, what you know, what you did, particularly the apartheid state, you'll be prosecuted. But there are still a whole lot of people that have been prosecuted even today.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to respond to this issue of conflict of interest because it does seem to be quite central in Mr. Mpofu's cross-examination. And I would have thought that the issue of conflict of interest, a problem of conflict of interest, really should only arise when one believes that there is the connection between the parties is improper, it's either fraudulent or even maybe even criminal.
Yes.
Now, in all these relationships that you tried to even suggest are incestuous, I would say that if someone is trying to help solve a situation which would either save lives, would either advance the common purpose of everyone, it should never be seen as a conflict of interest. You came to me here yesterday as counsel and you said, I've been trying to be certified as senior counsel. Is there anything you can do for me?
No, that's not true.
And
no,
I said,
that is untrue.
Yes.
You mustn't. No, but he can't come here and make up stories. You can't make up stories. He said to me, "Are you senior counsel yet? Tell the story as it happened, Mr. Ramaphosa."
Don't interrupt with the witness.
No, but he must not lie.
When he's finished, that's a question we don't have to go into now. When he's finished his answer, you can deal with it. But if you're going to interrupt, you're going to interrupt him or he's going to interrupt you, then things will get out of hand.
Yeah.
Let's keep the temperature down, let him finish his answer, and you can then deal with it.
I hope you guys still remember that one, the Nhlahla Commission that was investigating the Marikana massacre, the exchange between Ramaphosa and Mpofu there. And I think the sad thing about that particular commission as well is that we're sitting here today about 43 people were killed, 34 minors, and there was, I think, about 10 people who were killed prior to the 34, which were massacred by the police, that nobody was held responsible. This one was instituted by Jacob Zuma, who was the president then, and Ramaphosa got off scot-free, Natim Tetwa, who was the Minister of Police, got scot-free. I don't know what happened to Ria Pierha, who was the police commissioner, as it were. But I'm just trying to point out that these commissions of inquiry, there is something inherently wrong with them, as it were, in that eventually when they finish, after they cost so much money, and you and I sitting here today, we are none the wiser.
The Nugent Commission was told Moyane had ambitions of becoming the SARS commissioner while still a commissioner at Correctional Services.
He called us and said, "Can I meet you on this topic?"
And so are you saying you then went and read up about SARS?
We spent, I don't know, a few days to do that, and we put together a document, yes.
A few months later, he was appointed as SARS commissioner from a list of 127 applicants. Less than 4 months after becoming commissioner, Moyane appointed Bain and Company to do a radical overhaul at SARS. This tender process was done without Treasury approval.
Also very strange is that on the same date, on the 12th, in the SBD document, there is a price already included, filled. And you could only do that if you have already been briefed. And after being briefed, then you'll still go and work on the documents.
Bain was awarded a contract for just over 2 million rand, but it ended up receiving more than 160 million rand. Finance Minister Nhlanhla says he gave Moyane permission to restructure SARS because he honestly believed it would yield positive results.
With hindsight now, it turned out also that it didn't actually achieve that intended objective. And I would have then also hoped that with a professional company which was advising, and in fact the company that was advising was a company that had advised one of our institutions, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, and was able to actually turn it around. I found it very strange that in this instance that very same company produced a different outcome.
Former Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba, who was also on the stand, told the inquiry he got concerned about the state of affairs at SARS, especially since questions were asked by investors and rating agencies. He advocated for a commission of inquiry, he says. Gigaba also told the commission he signed off on a mysterious trip Moyane undertook without proper procedures being followed.
I relied on the integrity of the person and never thought that the person would provide me with wrongful information.
So that one was the Nugent Commission, chaired by Judge Nugent, and this one was looking into the SARS matter, how SARS was run under the leadership of Commissioner Moyane, and this one was instituted by Ramaphosa, so it's a Ramaphosa project, this one. But I think this one was very successful in that Moyane was removed and all of that, and SARS was restored to its former glory and all that. I don't know if there's anything that can be read into this one that other commissions couldn't do, as it were. But nonetheless, this one was a success because SARS today is a great organization. It's collecting more money and it's doing amazing things. For any government departments or institution, this one is one of the best if you ask any South African anywhere in the world.
Sorry. When I got an instruction, which was patently unlawful and unconstitutional, I didn't think twice. I didn't hesitate to disobey it. It was an unlawful instruction because I was being instructed to stop the investigation and intended prosecution of the former National Commissioner of Police, Mr. Cyril. This was coming from the Minister of Justice. Now, it was a no-brainer for me. The Minister has no such powers in terms of the Constitution and the law of the Republic. So I simply had to disobey it. When I was later then asked to resign before my actual suspension, I couldn't understand why. Perhaps, I was naive, and I'm still naive. I couldn't understand why. I said, I can't. Why should I? And then the minister said, no, because there's no longer trust between you and I. I said, but minister, you know that is not true. And she said to me, it's all about integrity, but I'll talk one day. I'm still waiting for the day that the minister talks, or the former minister, on this issue. So I said, Minister, I'm not going to resign. One, because we need a due process. If there's anything wrong that I've done, then there has to be a due process. I can't just resign. Two, I'll be lying to myself and to the nation, because I'll have to find an excuse why I resigned 2 years after my appointment. I would resign and then perhaps emerge as an ambassador in Saudi Arabia. Something that I was not prepared to do. So after that, then I had to have a meeting with the president, who also told me, I understand that you refused to resign. I said, that's correct, Mr. President. Said, why? I gave the same reasons I gave the minister. He said, even if I were to suspend you, you still not reconsider your position. I said, no, Mr. President, I won't. And then the instruction went out to prepare the letter of suspension.
So that was Vusi Pikoli, the former head of the NPA. In his case, there was a commission called the Ginwala Commission, which had to investigate him to determine whether he is fit to hold office. And the reason that a commission was instituted was because Vusi Pikoli was prepared to charge Jeki Silebi, and eventually Jeki Silebi was charged. He eventually was charged and he went to prison for corruption, as it were. But Thabo Mbeki and I think Bridget Mabanda, who was the minister at that time, Minister of Justice, as it was called, they wanted to suspend Vusi Pikoli because he was coming after a police commissioner. And Mbeki is the one who instituted the Ginwala inquiry, which cleared Vusi Pikoli. In fact, Kgalema Motlanthe, when he was an interim president, he said to Vusi Pikoli, I will institute you back to your position if only you promise that you're not going to prosecute Jacob Zuma. Can you believe that? So these are some of the commissions that usually the president will institute, not really because they're interested in justice as it were, but just kicking the can down the road. I think it's safe to say that South Africa's favorite sport is commissions of inquiry, particularly when it comes to leadership and governance. That whenever there is a major problem in South Africa, the only solution is for a president or a leader to institute a commission of inquiry. And it's not surprising, even this time when Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is bringing all these allegations, the president's solution, and some people might say he didn't have a choice, he instituted a judicial commission of inquiry. And I think if you look at it deeply, a lot of people, they don't have a problem with commissions of inquiry, but the biggest issue with the commissions of inquiry is that they do recommendations and nobody gets to do anything about it. It gives that thing as if the government is doing something or the president or the leadership is doing something when they institute a commission of inquiry. Nobody gets to be prosecuted and things like that. Since 1994, South Africa nationally, so to speak, considering even provincial commissions of inquiry that the premiers have been instituted, I think we've had 16 major ones, if memory still serves me well. The other ones I've already mentioned. But if you think about the Heifer Commission, the one that investigated Bulelani Ngcuka, he was accused of being a spy because he was investigating his comrades like Meg Maharaj, who was the Minister of Transport. He's the one who prosecuted Shabir Sheikh, and they accused him of being an apartheid spy. And what did President Thabo Mbeki do? Institute a commission of inquiry. If you remember the Kampepe Commission of Inquiry, they were investigating the Scorpions. The reason they investigated the Scorpions was simply because they were hitting closer to home. Most of the people that the Scorpions were having success with were ANC comrades, leadership, you know. And they're like, no, these Scorpions, they need to go. What did the president do? Institute a commission of inquiry. Who remember the Skomolo? It's a very terrible name. Skomolo Commission of Inquiry as well. It was investigating J.K. Silebi, his fitness to hold office and all those things. I mean, all these commissions, I can rattle them, some of them. TRC Commission, remember the one that investigated the arms deal? This is the case that Jacob Zuma even today still going to court for, you know? TRC Commission investigating that arms deal. The first very multi-million deal that happened immediately after democracy. Mkhoro Commission investigated the SAPS, the inquiry into the July 2021 July unrest. I mean, you can name them. You can name them. The biggest one is always going to be the Senzo Commission, investigation into state capture. And all in all of these commissions, what they have in common, most of them at least, is that there hasn't been any proper prosecution of a high-profile somebody. All of them, they come, they give evidence and all those things, and the commission makes a recommendation. And billions are spent on these commissions, and they yield very little results. So, yeah, man, and I'm hoping this one will be different. I don't know why am I hopeful for that. I shouldn't be surprised if nothing happens after Mkhwanazi's revelations and after the commission has sent their recommendation to the president and to parliament and all these relevant bodies, and nothing happens. You know, the NPA doesn't do anything. But let me know what you think about South Africa's favorite spot, that is commissions of inquiry. And thanks again for tuning in, and thanks again for those who subscribe. If you haven't, please be so kind and do so, and hope to see you guys on the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.